Hey guys, man, it's Rick Bigger over here at Northside Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. If you guys who haven't met him yet, who didn't see us last time, I'm lucky to have my coach. This is Christian Durr, my longtime instructor, mentor, and one of my best friends. Lucky to have him here, helping me out. We're gonna do some videos. We had a question come up.
Man, what a great question too.
It's awesome. We had a question come up after last time, and I made a video a while back called 5 Things Students Do That I Hate.
Yeah.
And one of them was being over aggressive. And
Yeah.
a guy had watched the videos we made and wanted us to answer this question for him. But basically the question is, how in the beginning, when you first start training, how do you deal with not being over aggressive, not being too competitive? How do you deal with losing so much in the beginning?
Right.
How do you adjust to that?
Yeah. And I thought it was a great question. And Rick said, because man, white belts typically don't act like that. Or don't. I mean, what I mean by that is they haven't trained long enough to realize that that's important. And so I'm glad this guy recognized it. And so this is a very common problem. I deal with it every day. So does Rick. New people start all the time. We were brand new guys at one point, and we talked about that. It's there's a process that you go through your first year of jiu-jitsu about learning about jiu-jitsu, basically. And I say it all the time to my guys that have schools. It's like white belts have to be taught everything. And what I mean by that is they don't even know that they're using too much energy. They have no idea. That's how we all started. We just don't know how much energy to use. What's the appropriate amount? So if we don't know, how much do we use? All of it. The guy doesn't just grab you, he grabs you and tries to squeeze the life out of you, And some of those guys have success. I mean, there's people out there winning fights like that, right? They're in street fights all the time, right? So, but yeah, when you learn jiu-jitsu, but the problem is, it's not something that you can explain it as well as you can. And I just want another thing I want to talk to you about, the language, man, because we're talking about this. It's so important. It's language. So what I mean by that is, if you're rolling with a white belt and he's using a lot of energy, and this happens all the time, happens every day in every gym across America. Somebody will say, "Hey man, you need to relax," and that's really not even what the guy means. The relax that he's saying versus what this guy understands to mean relax. When you think of relax, I mean, I'm on the couch watching Netflix or fishing. That's relax, okay? Yeah. What this guy really means to say is, hey man, you're using too much energy in this position right here where we're at. You don't need to use that much energy. But there isn't one thing you can say to the guy to say that, okay? And if you tell him that, hey man, if you stop Rick and say, hey man, from here, you don't need to grab me so hard, you can feel it. So inch by inch, say I'm in the side mount. This happens all the time. The guy, he's hugging everything right here, and you're just literally doing anything. It's all you can do, just to go limp. So man, I can't wait for this guy to let me go a little bit so I can get them out or whatever. And so, but you can say to the guy, okay, hey, let's say grab me like you grab me. He squeezes and squeezes as hard as he can until he's exhausted. And they say, okay, now I want you to grab me again, but this time I just want you to just close your hands. Don't even use any energy. You know what I mean? Because what we're talking about relaxing, we're talking about using, there's a spectrum of, it's at the bottom it's this, my hands are nice and loose, and at the other end of the spectrum it's me squeezing as hard as I can. The correct amount of energy is in between there. Now, it's that process's job to kind of figure it out. First I got to figure it out from this position. Maybe it's a side mount. Then I got to figure it out from when I'm trying to pass the guard. Then I got to figure it out. But it's not like times tables. It's not like, hey man, if you write this down 10 times, if you write it down 100 times, you'll remember it. You have to go through it 100 times physically. And then what happens is, in your muscle memory, you start finding the appropriate amount of energy that you have to use. And once you find it, it's just obvious you're not going to use more energy. That's why I was telling Rick that it's not really the white belt's fault. It's who we put with the white belt, okay? Man, I get a headache thinking about, anybody comes to my gym, it doesn't really matter. If they wanted to roll, I would just let them roll. Yeah. Who would I let them roll with? Anybody there. We're all here to roll. Yeah. I don't do that now. If a white belt comes in, it depends on the white belt. If it's a college wrestler, he's rolling with Rick or something. It's like, hey man, Rick, go with this guy, but he's a white belt. But if it's a female, if it's a smaller individual, Depending on who it is, what I'm saying is I'm only going to put them with somebody that I trust. That's number one, it's not going to hurt them. That they're not going to hurt the person. But also number three is like somebody, especially if it's one of the spazzy white belts that we think it's going to have that kind of energy. I put them with somebody who I know is going to not only be able to handle that energy, but also it's not going to take it personal. Because that's a big part of it too, Rick. Like I feel like sometimes when you put two guys who are close, especially beginners, who are kind of close in skill level or attributes, what have you, they're going and they're trying to win. I mean, because that's what they think we're trying to do out here, and they may stalemate. One may lose. If one loses for sure, the other one's going to get pissed. You know what I mean? Which is silly, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So anyway, the point is, it's inherent to us as coaches to make sure, hey, your first 3 to 6 months, you don't really need to spar. You can just work on techniques, and then you can go with me. I'll go with, or a higher belt. Say, hey, man, I want you to get the energy. Just make sure they get elbow knee escapes from the side now. The guy's got to get, every time he comes in, I see him, he's got to get 10, 15 elbow knee escapes with no resistance.
Yeah.
And when his body makes that connection, that energy right there, that idea of using too much spasm, at least from that point, he won't spaz out. But if he can get one of those, then he realizes what you're talking about. He can get the concept of when somebody tells him to relax. Now it's talking about like in a combat situation, which is different than an efficient situation or a Netflix couch situation.
Yeah.
But now that he understands kind of what the guy means, he can kind of duplicate that in the other positions.
So almost from on both sides, the student perspective and the coaching perspective. If you guys notice, I'm doing a lot of listening right now because I'm still learning to be a better coach and talking about this. And I said that to make a point. When you're a brand new student, you have to learn the language of what relax means.
Right.
You have to learn the language. One of my favorite things Chris Howder told me when I went out and met him the first time was the better storyteller you are, the better coach you can be.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that. Yeah.
I went to I went out to a seminar in Austin first.
Yeah.
And he would say there's a difference between move your hand and like cast your hand.
That's right. Yeah.
Push your hand and pull your hand.
Yes.
I tell my students this when in the middle of class, listen to the details. I didn't say roll your wrist. I said straighten your wrist. I didn't say push. I said pull. Right. And I've so many examples of this. Long time ago, we watched a kids coach on YouTube talk kids wrestling, and he made up the characters.
Yeah.
Remember this guy? We would try to emulate the way that he taught.
Yeah.
And
was it Mike Krause? You know about Mike Krause? Might be a different guy.
Krause.
I love Mike Krause.
Let me look. I think it's him. Like the #1 kids wrestling.
Yeah, that's him, Mike Krause.
Right?
Yeah.
And he would say like boom, and he would say things in it. And
Yeah.
I remember I showed you the video,
Yeah.
and then you watched him, and I remember watching you steal these techniques.
Yeah.
To get people's attention.
That's right.
Right? Like snapping your fingers.
Yeah.
To get somebody to pay attention to this hand.
Yeah.
Right? So as a student, it's picking up on these cues, learning these details, learning what they mean, learning the language, but also as a coach.
Right.
Learning. I remember old school clinch. You just came in, you rolled.
Right.
Everybody rolled with everybody.
Yeah. That's right.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Like, I think the first, like, you're just going to go in there and roll. And it's going to be, it might be a bloodbath.
Yeah.
Early on. Early Northside was the same way.
We were still figuring things out back then.
Right. When I first opened Northside, we had...
Part of the problem was the guys come in and wouldn't listen.
We had 12 to 15 people when we first started. And I used to, I tell my guys now, I don't roll near as much as I used to.
Yeah.
Because I used to have to roll with every person individually.
Yeah.
Because they don't know how to roll. And they'll kill each other.
Right.
And they I would roll 10 rounds a night.
Yeah.
And roll with everyone.
How do we not get 3 broken arms? I mean, it's a testament to Jiu Jitsu's
So then,
safety.
After nowadays,
Yeah.
I have experienced guys. And I can do what you say, and I can put a guy.
Yeah.
But I used to be, I remember when I was like, well, how do you get this competitive spirit out of this person? This aggression. The aggression I want to leave to some extent, but I also don't. I've got to give to the middle.
Exactly.
Right? One of my favorite sayings, one of my least favorite sayings is leave your ego at the door.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, you better not.
Yeah.
If you get on the mat with me and you don't have an ego, I'm gonna crush you.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna use mine to beat you.
Yeah.
Your ego is the little voice in your brain that protects you.
Right.
Okay, so that your ego gets you. You don't have to get rid of it. You have to control it.
Right. So but Rick, this stands as, again, it's language. When you say ego, what I think of ego and what you think of ego, it's two different things.
It's all negative. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but what you really mean is, hey, listen, the process is you're going to get crushed in here. Just don't take it personal. It's like, this is, everybody had to go through this, and don't be too upset by it. You're going to be upset about it. It's not going to feel good. You know what I mean? Mentally and physically, sometimes it's like, well, we say that, but there's a lot of times you walk in, you feel great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you might have tapped 6 times. I got choked 6 times. I mean, to be honest with you, man, like if you get to be a black belt, man, when somebody taps you out, man, it's enjoyable because man, that was a challenge. Like I got to go back and finish that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes when you roll with your students, I mean, you taught them everything from A to Z, so it's harder for those guys, But I mean, they get to it too. But if you roll with one of these top guys and they catch you, you're like, oh man, I didn't know that I didn't know that could happen to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it makes you look at things different.
I think it's a lot of this is figuring that out. The early language of it. What's the expectations? Like you said, if I don't know what to do, I got to do something.
Right.
So I'm just gonna resist as much as
that's
I
what
can.
it is. Yeah. So again, like to me, this is not even something. If I see like the blue belts tell a white belt to relax, I mean, don't tell them that. Don't say anything to them. It's not something that it's not a conscious effort that you're undertaking. You know what I mean? Right now, that's going to find itself naturally. The more this guy rolls with higher belts, he's going to have to relax because he's not going to have any energy left.
Yeah.
And so he's going to have. Right now, he's getting about with 100 for 30 seconds, but he'll relax very quickly. He has to give 5 or 10. It's better to do that and only use the 100% intermittently.
Techniques I use, I do it in class sometimes too, but I originally started doing it when I was teaching DT to police officers.
Yeah.
And so I would teach, like I say, a seminar, and start the seminar with, what's your guys' average response time? Okay, so you're just going to be somewhere between 5 and 20 minutes. Right, for help.
That's how much time you got.
Okay, so like in America, we're going to call it 20. That's what I normally use. It kind of varies, depends where you are.
Yeah.
But I say, all right, cool. So you've got to be able to go for 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to be able to protect myself. The winning in a street fight or self-defense scenario is don't die and don't get a life-changing injury.
Yeah.
That's it. It doesn't matter whether you beat me on points. It doesn't matter if I was on the bottom the whole time. It doesn't matter if I'm all bloodied up and messed up. I can't get a life-changing injury.
If those two things don't happen,
can't die.
you got a chance.
Right? So what's the best thing for self-defense? Jiu-Jitsu. Why? Because Jiu-Jitsu gives you an opportunity in every fight to survive and possibly win. There's no other martial art that can say that.
Yeah.
Wrestling is better as a base for fighting.
Yeah.
Like for MMA.
Yeah.
But if you meet a better wrestler or a bigger person, even like a really athletic person, wrestling can fail because there's a lot of athleticism.
That's right.
Right? But Jiu-Jitsu will give you an opportunity. It won't guarantee you, but you'll have an opportunity. So, but the only way I can do that, like Helio Gracie say, if you don't lose, eventually you win.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, of course, it sounds almost dumb on the surface.
Yeah.
But if I survive for those 20 minutes, eventually that guy will get tired and I can use something to beat him, right? So I would take guys and I would say, hey, cool, I want you to go. And then I would have them do something pretty simple, like try to get a takedown. And the guy goes as hard as he can, as fast as he can, as violent and explosive as he can. And then 30 seconds later, he's exhausted. And I'm like, hey, man, you only got 19 minutes and 30 seconds till your backup gets here.
Yeah.
And then another 30 seconds, and now he's literally giving up.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, man, well, you just died.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of it, like you said, we have to flip a switch in our brain.
Yeah.
And we have to think differently on what am I trying to do? Like, why did I come to the gym today? Did I come to the gym today to win? Or did I come to the gym today to get better? Did I come to the gym today to learn? Lots of different people over the years that I've listened to think about it different ways, but some days you're just gonna come in and roll and have fun. Just about having fun.
Yeah.
You had a bad day, just gonna go to Jiu-Jitsu, have fun. But there's gotta be at least, a certain percentage of those days that you show up and you're like, hey man, I'm gonna chill out today. I'm gonna really focus and pay attention. Today's about learning. And the more you do that, it might be 1% of the days, or it might be 90% of the days.
Yeah.
that percentage is how much better you'll get and how fast you'll get better. You know, but early on, like you said, there's things that stand in the way. Ego is one of them as far as your competitive nature. You know, like us coming from wrestling.
Right.
I think that I need to win every match.
Yeah.
But I don't realize that by trying to win every match, I'm not learning.
Yeah.
Because I'm just using athleticism and I'm not learning the techniques.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, man. On I forgot what podcast it was, but Dan, I think it was the Lex Friedman podcast, but it's a great one if you guys haven't listened to it yet. But he said language is a superpower. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And that's why I think the specificity of his language is gotten him to where he is. I think he's an excellent coach, and he's different in a way. Like my instructor, Jean-Jacques Machado. If I compare these two guys as coaches, and I love learning from both of these guys. But Jean-Jacques Machado, it's like he's that science teacher Rich that's got this incredible experiment. That if you see this experiment, it'll blow your mind, like how amazing this was. Like you'll remember it like for the rest of your life. Like, oh my God, it'll make you want to learn about science. You know what I mean? But he leaves the process open for how you're going to arrive there to learn the experiment. He's going to give you the basic stuff and say, hey man, you know what I mean? Because he understands, he's stressing the process of it, you know what I mean? Versus this, Dan to me is that real hardcore teacher who's going to tell you exactly what they want, exactly, you know what I mean? And it'll blow your mind another way, but it's like, hey man, I want you to do exactly like this. These are the steps you take. Yeah. This is what I'm talking about. Like if Jean-Jacques shows me a move, it's open, you know, I can ask questions about it, this, that, and the other thing, and he explained it in such a way because he's talking to me, he's talking to you, he's talking to the 300-pound guy, he's talking to Felicia O, he's talking to all different kinds of people, so he knows, hey, listen, man, it's going to be a little bit different for this guy than it is for Rick, and it's going to be a lot different for this smaller person than it is for those, you know what I mean? It's like, these things are going to kind of, they're going to stay, but they're going to kind of morph into how you use it. But it's different for Danaher guys. Or for John Danaher, I feel like he's so specific with everything. He believes like there's an exact right way to do every move. Yes. There's an exact right way. Yeah. Okay, and he's looking. His teaching is about the principles, finding what he thinks that is, and explaining why. You know what I mean? And so I think it's so. That's what I love about Jiu-Jitsu. It's so beautiful and rich in so many different ways. Like, you know, these two great instructors I'm teaching, and you have guys like Bernardo or Marcelo or whoever else teach in a different way. And it's just so great, but the style's different. Yeah. But I say that to say why language is so important. Rick, let me ask you a question. Do you think, because again, part of it, guys, listen, is as coaches, we need to do better to say, when we're teaching a white belt technique, the spazzy white belt. Yeah. If I say spazzy white belt, just close your mind and you have yours in your life and we have ours in our life, okay? But what I'm saying is that guy who you're worried about hurting one of your students or, you know, kicking you in the face or whatever, when you're teaching them a technique, make sure you explain to him, you know, not necessarily on a daily basis, but on a weekly, monthly basis, hey man, listen, a big part of jiu-jitsu is energy expenditure, okay? Mm-hmm. Right here, when one of the big things, I'm going to show you the movements your body needs to make, but before I show you the movements, let's talk about exactly how it should feel. I'm going to do it to you. Do you see how, you know what I mean? Because the problem is they need to see a contrast. They haven't rolled enough to see the contrast of energy and this guy's ready to do something. He's not relaxed, but it doesn't feel like he's using a lot of energy. You know, he hasn't seen that contrast enough to even know the difference. You know what I mean? And so that's what we have to do is better jobs as coaches. We know that the Gracie Academy, you know, in Torrance or I think they might have moved down the street now, but they don't let you roll their first year. Free rolling is not allowed. Yeah. You understand? Now, you and I hear that and we're like, oh my God, what kind of place could it even be if there's no rolling going on? I mean, there's something to that. Sure. But if you take a moment and say, man, well, why? The reason why was because injuries are one of the main reasons people quit jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. And one of the main reasons why people get hurt in jiu-jitsu is because they spar, but they don't know what they're doing. And then a lot of times they're sparring with somebody else who doesn't know what they're doing. So now we have two people. It's a recipe for injuries. Yeah. And so while I don't agree that it would take a whole year to kind of realize what's going on in jiu-jitsu, I mean, I'm like, hey man, like, if I will say this, at the end of that year, those people do have a lot more skills. But here's the thing: even those people at day one of year two, they're gonna have to go through that sparring session now. You know what I mean? Now they do situational rolling, which I think is completely appropriate. I just don't think it has to take a year. But that's how I think beginners should be taught. Should be no rolling until they have a basic set of skills. Alliance in Brazil, you have to do 60 classes. In the beginning class, there's no rolling. You do 60. Actually, I know it's 60 classes beginner. There may be limited rolling, but it's 60 classes in that class before you can even go and go to another class where rolling is regular.
That's how Gracie Barra was. You had the beginners class, or I think called fundamentals maybe.
Right.
And then once you became a 4-stripe white belt, you could move to the what they call the black belt program, which is 4-stripe white belts and up.
Right.
And that did several things, but obviously it limits techniques that are being taught in the original class.
Right.
But it also allows multiple instructors to watch all those people.
Right.
And they're not intermingling with all these bigger, higher level dudes.
Yeah.
Especially at a competitive gym, like a Gracie Bar or an Alliance or whatever.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being a white belt and just get tossed in there, even here you go. Here's 40
I can't imagine it.
world champion black belt as a white belt. There you go.
Yeah.
One, you get killed.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of different ways to do it. I think it's super interesting, as I said, the evolution of how coaches think about it.
Yeah.
Because I know when I started there, it's go roll. I mean, I walked into gyms and they're like, hey, you want to spar today?
Right there. Yeah. Crazy, right?
Day 3.
And this is not unusual either.
They're like, go spar. And we didn't know about a lot of stuff back then.
Yeah.
Obviously, we didn't know how many people were going to get hurt. We didn't know how much brain damage you could get from sparring.
Right.
I remember sparring MMA and guys getting knocked out in the gym, and it wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
You okay? You got another round?
Good, man.
It's still your set.
One time and saw green for 2 days. My vision, the 10 of my vision. And
man.
I sparred 3 more rounds, so they didn't want to tell anybody.
Yeah.
And really not very smart.
Right.
We know much better now. You see a lot of pros that don't even full contact spar anymore.
Man,
They
the
just
CTE
touch
is
sparring.
crazy, man. We learn a lot about it. Yeah, it's scary.
And so it's cool how we evolve as coaches to learn more about it. I definitely do it different. I've been teaching for 4 years here.
Yeah.
And obviously I taught with you on and off part-time and helped you out, but at my own school, my own place every day for 4 years. And so I do it different. I used to roll with everybody. And then we had where I used to roll a ton. I was I care about rolling the most. And now, we have a lot of, I think it depends on each individual person too. That's the other,
absolutely
responsibility of coach is
there's so many variables.
Like I said, when I first met you, I had 4 or 5 years of grappling experience already, but I also had a decade of wrestling and come in and you're like, oh, okay, cool. Just roll.
Yeah.
And I went to, but then you have another guy who comes in, one thing I see a lot now, especially with younger, middle teenage years guys, they'll come in and you have to teach the person how to use their body. When I don't know if this is true across society, it may make me sound old, but it just seems like people aren't as used to running, jumping, swimming, etc. like they used to a lot of more sedentary people.
Right.
And a lot of those people gravitate towards Jiu Jitsu, right? And you get that guy that not that athletic, not that big and strong, probably getting picked on or bullied, or wants to do something, so he tries Jiu Jitsu out. And then we try to get him to the warm up, and you realize this guy can't do a lunge, so this guy can't roll. Yeah. It's impossible because his body doesn't know. He has to learn how to move again. I have adults that way, and you're like, man, this person is so out of shape that they have to get into shape before they can roll, or they're going to get hurt.
Right.
So we have to divide them and put them in different people. A lot of strategies from a coach. I think from a student perspective too, you have to, sometimes it's almost illogical what we think when we come in. You have to meter your expectations.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's your attitude of just expectations when you come in. If you walk in to a gym, and this is the people I'm really talking about that are frustrating to me,
right.
is if you go into a gym and you're expecting to win every match on day one, and you're getting mad because you're not beating the coach. Let's think about that. You came to a gym with a expert at whatever martial art, so you're your black belt at Jiu Jitsu, and you come to the gym. And this person has not only got, let's say 10 years, he's a black belt, He's probably competed a bunch. He's probably won. He may have fought professionally at some point in time, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
And you don't know anything.
Right.
And you come into this guy, and you go into this guy's gym, and you're going to try to beat him.
Yeah.
Like on day one.
Yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous.
Well, it's not the trying.
When
It's
you
just that if you get
look
upset
back-
about it if you don't do it.
Yeah, or you're
you have a
frustrated.
feeling
You're like,
about
I
it,
can't believe this guy beat me.
Yeah.
And you're like hitting the mat and stuff, and you're like,
Yeah. I'll tell you a story about this.
think about that for one, but also
Yeah.
think about next is you're going to pay this guy to teach you
Yeah.
the skill, but what you're losing to him. If you beat him on day one, would you pay him?
Right.
It's so, and it's not like, I don't mean that in a negative way. Like, look how dumb this person is that thinks that way. It's just think how illogical that is.
Right. It doesn't make sense.
It's expectations. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
So when you come in, just a lot. I think one of the best. I'm not going to name drop them on here, but some of the best advice I ever got was I literally was like, I don't know how to get better at this. I don't understand.
Yeah.
And I had lost. I got triangled in an MMA fight.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? I got to get better.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
And I probably wasn't the easiest student at that time for sure too.
Yeah.
And expectations were probably out of place. And this coach literally just told me, he goes, you want some good advice? And I was like, yeah. He goes, you got a gi, right? At this time I was no gi only.
But you just lost this fight, right?
Yeah.
Immediately? It's just like, are you
This
still in
is
a cage? Are you still in a cage?
No,
Or
this
is it like
is
a day
like
after?
a day or two after.
Yeah.
This is like fights on Friday night, and this is Monday class.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, what? He's like, you got a gi, right? Because as I said before,
Right.
MMA guy, I had 4 or 5 years, just no gi only.
Yeah.
I don't need to train in the gi. Gi's a waste of time. Leg locking everybody. It's kind of weird. That was a long time
Hey,
ago.
you fit in right now.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
I
you killed
was
it
like
today.
15 years ahead of my time. I was way ahead of my time.
That's right. Man,
I don't want to hear I'm anti-leg locks. I was on
Right.
that game before
Oh
y'all
my
were
God,
training.
this guy.
I was on that before y'all were training. But, so you're like, okay, cool. He's like, you got a gi? I'm like, yeah, I bought a gi. You got a white belt? I was like, yeah, I bought a white belt. I said, cool, put it on, go down the end of the line and shut the fuck up. And, that doesn't work. That doesn't work with most people, obviously. I would never probably tell a student that.
Man, you know what's
Right.
funny, man? I
But
guess,
it's
I
perfect
guess I
for
met you
me.
later in your life, but I mean, I can't imagine anybody talking to you like that.
It's perfect
But I
for
love
me.
it. I want to meet that guy.
It's perfect for me.
That guy definitely knew jiu-jitsu. He was
Yeah.
ready. He was ready.
Big time jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah.
So but it was perfect for me because that's what I needed.
Right. Yeah.
I needed somebody to tell me, hey man, I get it that you've been successful at this. I get it you've been successful at this. I
Right.
get it that
This is not that.
this is not that. And
Yeah.
I want to help you, but you're making it hard for me to help you
Right.
because you're not buying into the process.
Yeah, I like, you know what, Rick, Tony Blair has a great quote. I think it's, I hope I get it right. It says, bluntness is good because it intimidates the weak and it gauges the strong.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I have a football coach that works right down the street around here.
Yeah.
And he comes by the gym sometimes to talk to me. And he knew me when I was in high school. He coached me when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And I like to razz him about how mean he used to be to me.
Oh, yeah.
And it bothers him. He's like,
That he could have been mean to you?
no, he told me, he's like, I hated to do that to you.
Yeah. He just knew you needed it.
But he's like, that's the only thing you would respond to.
Yeah.
He used to tell me stuff, like, and once he figured out that it worked,
Yeah.
like he would call me out about something like right before a game
Yeah.
or right before
Oh,
a
damn,
match.
like lead up to the game?
And I would just go
damn.
crazy and destroy everybody. And I would
He really know how to get you, yeah.
I would be so frustrated about this thing that he had said.
Yeah.
Like he told me one time, and in high school I played on football team. I played on both. I played basically everything.
Yeah.
Played both ways, and I was the only one at the team at the time that played both ways. I played on all the special teams, and so I literally played basically every snap of the game.
Damn.
And so I was telling him about, I was talking to him, and he was basically told me, we want to keep you in more.
Right.
I was frustrated because I got pulled out and I didn't understand why.
Yeah.
And they were pulling me out to rest me
Yeah.
because I'm playing 85, 90.
Right.
playing
All the
football,
snaps.
Right. Literally every snap.
Yeah.
So they took me, that's what it was. They took me off one of the special teams. Like, it was like, when we punt the ball, you're going to get a break.
Yeah.
And that's it. Or whatever. Whenever we kick return, you're going to get a break. And it was like, we need you to, I was mainly a defensive guy. I'm like, we need you to do that.
Yeah.
You're going to college to play defensive football.
Right.
We're gonna give you a break so you can do that.
Yeah.
And I was mad. I was like, no, I want to play every play.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't understand. Did I do something wrong?
Yeah.
And him, instead of telling me that he was trying to rest me,
You're right. What did he say?
he was just like, well, I mean, your conditioning is not where it needs to be yet.
Oh, dang.
So we had to pull you off some teams to give you some rest.
Dang.
You know,
That's how he said it to you?
I don't think that we're not sure you can play 100% the whole
Right.
game.
I gotta meet this guy.
Right. So I just
He knows
left.
some stuff I don't know yet.
I just left in my locker, got my running shoes, and I just went to the bleachers, and I started running the bleachers.
Wait, this during the game?
No, this was in between during the week.
I got you.
And they had told me, you're going to sit out this, and this. We're taking you off these teams. And I'm like, what'd I do wrong?
Yeah. And when he told you that, you're like, that's what it is? I gotta go. I
was like,
get
boom.
ready. Yeah,
I'm outside and I'm running bleachers.
Nice.
And I'm thinking, I'm going to show this guy.
Yeah.
I had a pretty good chip on my shoulder, and I was like, I'm going to show
He
this
took you
guy.
off the punt team too next week.
And this guy was like, that is exactly how I knew he'd respond.
Yeah, nice.
And then they still made me sit, and I was every day.
Yeah,
so then they let that run for a week.
Yeah.
And then they're like, boom, you're right back in there. And I would play hard, so
so
hard as I
hard,
could every play. And he knew how to manipulate me that way.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah.
But he knew how to use that
Yeah.
to trick that motivation. And he was very blunt to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a very blunt guy. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to talk to me that way to get me to respond to you.
Yeah. In fact, I feel like,
me.
this personality trait of that like and bluntness, never. It's interesting and I feel like it's annoying to you when if people try to sugarcoat something, you just want, hey man, just tell me what the fuck
is going on. Tell me what's going on, man.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me
Give
like
it to me
that.
now, and then we can work. Yeah. And it's almost like they're just, and because they don't like bluntness, they don't want to come at you blunt.
It's intimidating to them.
Yeah.
I think, obviously, the way I was raised is a big part of that, but also sports. I played a lot of sports.
Yeah.
And then I played sports in college, and then I was in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And that's a very blunt atmosphere,
Yeah.
And so I think that's obviously my personality is geared that way. But I remember with you, like you said, for me, if I catch you, like if you just have to tell me like, hey man, you're going too hard, or this whatever. Like when I was a student,
Right.
where with other people you got to really manipulate language to motivate them to figure it out.
You just say it.
I feel disrespected when you talk to me that way. When you're like, I'm like, are you trying to manipulate me in some way? Just tell me what you mean.
That's funny because I feel like I'm not really blunt a lot of times.
Yeah.
I do try to make sure somebody is. I need to work on that because I feel like that might have been an issue with us.
Well, I remember back in the day. I remember I had knee problems there for a couple of years after I let that guy dislocate my knee that one time, heel hook, and
I'm not tapping that.
Yeah, not till I did break my leg.
That's right.
Dylan loves to tell that story.
Yeah.
I'm like, stop telling people that they'll do it. That was dumb. But I remember you telling me, like, coming in, and you were like, yeah, it's great that you're here. It's good to see you, and like, shake my hand, give me a hug. But you're not training today, man. Go home. I'm actually training every day.
I remember this day.
Sometimes I would train twice a day, every day.
Yeah.
And for years, we were there in the morning, and then I would, and my schedule would switch, and I would come to noon class, and then you and I would go eat. It's kind of how our lunches started.
Yeah.
We'd go eat, and I'd come back for evening classes, and I'd go to work, and it was a madman's pace for a lot of years. And I remember sometimes, I also remember, one of your big things. We don't do that at Northside. We say what we want here. But Clint, you're like, hey man, you got to watch your language.
Yeah.
I have very, sometimes, especially back then, really bad language.
That's why he's the reason we implemented that rule.
We use the same, we use the same rules here now. I stole that rule from there. I was like, hey, if there's not kids here, you can do what you want.
Right.
You can say what you want because we're all adults.
Right.
But when there's children in here, I teach kids class twice a week.
Right.
I'm not in there dropping
keep
bombs.
it easy, man.
You got to learn how to adapt to your environment. But I remember, I think it's like me and Todd Hunter probably, like we're arguing about something. And we're sitting there just cussing each other, and you're literally like, hey man, if you say another cuss word, we're gonna get in the cage.
Oh dang.
Get out, go home. I remember you realizing there's certain people you have to be blunt with. And others you don't. But on this in the beginning with people, I think that's part of it too, is understanding people's motivations.
Right.
From all sides. When you're the student, you come in, I try to ask guys when they start, like, why are you here?
Right.
What are you trying to accomplish? Because I want to give it to you.
This is a good idea, right?
I want to help you.
Right.
but it's harder for me to help you if you don't tell me the help you need.
Yeah.
It takes me time to figure it out. You know, and one thing jiu-jitsu's done for me is I can read people really well.
Yeah,
Like we were
yeah.
talking about when you're competing with somebody,
Yeah.
you figure all these things out. And there's only so many personalities in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You've got aggressive guys, and you've got other guys. It's just, it can be the same problem. Some of that when we talk about, people, the students, maybe I think I'm too competitive, or I struggle with that.
Right.
You know what would be worse? Being too passive and just getting crushed. So there's pros and cons to both.
Right.
I've met a lot of guys I train with, especially younger kids, and you're like, I can't get this kid to walk forward. He's scared.
Right.
So overcoming fear can be harder than overcoming ego and anger sometimes. So you got to figure out, what am I in here for? Why am I here? What is my expectations from my coach here? What are my expectations from each role? And have those days where it's like, hey man, today I might lose a lot. And we're talking about John Jock, the first time I ever met him, he demonstrated a grip.
Yeah.
And obviously he's not known for gripping techniques because he only has one hand. But I remember him bringing you over and showing how to establish a grip, and twisting
that wrist.
the wrist.
I still can't do it.
And it making you take the knee.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
This. Boop.
I'm like, dog, that ain't real.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, right.
This
yeah.
looks like some YouTube
But you see, the
kung
non-touch.
fu stuff,
right.
right? The dim mat touch.
That's right, that's
So,
right.
man, let me tell you. And I'm like, oh my God.
No.
And it was like,
Yeah.
nerve damage or something. Like, it hurt. And I asked him, I was like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
And he told me kind of on the side, like,
Right.
you have to concentrate on it.
Yeah.
He says, when you roll,
Right.
I want you just to establish the grip. And
Yeah.
once you get the grip, make it tighter.
Yeah.
Make it tighter. Make it tighter. I tell this to my students now, I tell them about doing it. And I remember rolling, and I was like, whatever that dude says, I'm going to do it, man. That guy made me take a knee with one hand.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, figuring it out. And
But you develop it. You've had
I
to work on it.
realize
Yeah, yeah.
that I do it now, and I have to be careful when I'm demonstrating
Yeah.
because it hurts my students.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they're like, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Like,
Man, I still can't do it. I gotta,
it's just like,
yeah, it's crazy.
He's like, boom,
He's not gonna show you guys and watch this. If you ask him, he's not allowed to show you guys until I figure it out.
It's a lot of that. It's that process.
Yeah.
Early on, I think the process. We talk about over the years. Are there hacks in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
And they're like, remember Lloyd Irvin?
Of course, man. Don't talk about that guy, man.
Lloyd Irvin, bro.
Man, people, man, listen. I was just having this conversation, bro. I'm glad you brought him up. If you guys don't know, Lloyd Irvin he's still a famous jiu-jitsu coach.
Yeah.
He's from I think it's Maryland or Virginia area. Anyway, he got really successful. This was years ago. He started a team and he would recruit young up and coming guys that wanted to be champions, and he would have a situation where they could train for free and just their room and board was paid for. So all they had to worry about was training. And he developed a lot of guys, man. J.G. Torres was there, Keenan Cornelius. There was a bunch of guys.
Ryan Hall.
Ryan Hall. I have a friend, Brandon Vera, that trained with Lloyd Irvin. I haven't talked to Brandon in a long time, but Brandon Vera was there. And
he was tough.
man, I mean, look at the guys I just named, right?
Big time,
I mean,
yeah.
obviously this guy's a good coach.
Big time.
But then what happened was, there was a rape situation in the house. Like somebody, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But then it came out that he was involved in some kind of situation like that when he was in college, and. Man, like, when I look at it, it's like, hey, man, I think this, from the evidence that's been presented to me, for sure whatever happened at Lloyd Irvin's Academy with the guy raping the girl, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But Lloyd Irvin didn't have anything to do with that. Now, you could say, hey, well, he created a culture where that was normal, and I don't know. I can't speak to the culture.
Yeah, I didn't train there.
Yeah, I didn't train there. But I have, I met guys and trained with people that trained there, but still. But then the situation that was involving him, it was like whatever year, 25, 20, whatever years ago it was. Yeah. And so, again, but when, I heard him tell his side of the story on that, I was like, well, I mean, that seems reasonable. I don't know, I didn't look at the case records 20 years ago, but the guy got it, he got acquitted. It looked to me like, hey, somebody accused this guy of something, and, so anyway, my point, I say this to say this, like, this guy's a good coach, but even me as a coach, it's like, I don't bring him up and talk about it that much because of the stigma. It's like, if you talk about him, if you say, hey, man, Lord Evans does this.
I used to be a huge fan of
This
happened.
I remember
I was
you had a strong
huge
feeling
fan.
about it.
We would spend hours talking about
This was a big deal.
when all this was going on.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of Lloyd Irvin.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons was because he was one of the early guys that was like evidence-based.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They would study data, and they would say, these are the submissions that are most successful from these positions in all these tournaments, and they would study this, and they would drill those specific things.
Yeah.
But, I brought him up because he would talk a lot, like, he would present it like, this is the jiu-jitsu hack.
Right.
Let's hack jiu-jitsu.
Right, because he's a promoter.
He's a promoter.
And a lot of people don't like him because he is.
Arguably
And he's
the
a
best
successful
jiu-jitsu promoter ever. Right?
Well, besides the Gracies.
Yeah.
Gracies.
I think he was beating them back then.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, hey, man.
They definitely won the long run.
Right. Well, I think he's still doing fine. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's to the point that what were you bringing along there for?
When we talking about hacking jiu-jitsu,
Right, yeah.
he would talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
And I remember I'm a huge believer in evidence-based stuff.
Right,
And being a paramedic is my main profession, and being a firefighter is my main profession. Two professions that require evidence-based things.
Exactly.
And the entire treatments, culture, tactics, training has changed over the last 20 years based on evidence.
Yeah.
Versus traditional way to do things.
Right.
It's
a big difference.
It's big time different. We're a lot better at things now. Also, a lot of arguing and fighting through that process. Still to this day sometimes.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between evidence-based things and data and hacking things.
Yeah.
One of the things, I think in America we like hacks because we like apps and we like instant gratification. And I think it makes it harder for us in this environment because the number one thing that you're going to get out of jiu-jitsu, I used to talk about one of the guys a long time ago and said, man, this guy's he's not becoming a better person in jiu-jitsu because he's just an anti-jiu-jitsu guy.
Right.
He's not embracing the process.
Somebody said that about you?
No, about it.
Okay.
I used to talk to you about this.
Yeah.
And I watched, it is bad. I watched a documentary about the guys who started Patagonia.
Yeah, Ivan Quinard. Yeah.
They went down to Patagonia.
Crazy, right? This guy's got a great story.
Great.
You read his book?
I have not.
It's called Let My People Surf.
Check it out.
Patagonia's headquarters is not to get off the subject, but it's in Ventura, California. It's close to like a block or so from the beach.
Yeah.
And the rule in his company is like, if the waves are up, go surf. When you're done, come back and do your work. You know what I mean? And but it's a great story. It's a great
fire
story.
department.
Yeah.
Maybe
I thought you guys had that at the fire.
We're gonna try. Got a contract coming up in a couple of years.
Well, tell me. So you
But
read
he
it?
would
You
say-
heard about this guy? Yeah.
I was watching a documentary of his, and he would say, you don't hack the process.
Right.
The process is what changes you.
Right.
That's the whole thing. And early on when I was training, I didn't understand this. And you never do.
Nobody did.
I don't know that I understood this. I thought I understood this the day that I got my black belt.
That was just the beginning.
4 years later, I know that I didn't. And I know that right now I don't understand all of this.
Yeah.
And I just, that's the thing. You're going to evolve as a student. You're going to evolve as a coach. You're going to evolve in your understanding of things, and you're going to evolve in your ability to deal with this aggression, competitiveness, being humbled by losing. You're just learning and learning and learning and learning.
Yeah.
And I try to let my guys know that like the fastest way to getting better is to buy into what I'm selling. If you buy into what I'm coaching you, this is a proven process for this works. It's worked here. I learned it from clinch where it worked. Look at all these guys. These guys that are smashing you?
Yeah.
They use that process.
Yeah.
Just follow them.
Yeah.
As we were talking about earlier, like we know this is the way to do it because we got literally hundreds of years now. Yeah. And it's not us, like it's everybody everybody that you want to name drop. You just pick the guy you like to hear name drop the most.
Yeah.
And that dude used the same process.
Absolutely.
That process will work.
Man, there's a great quote. I don't like to use a quote. It's a little bit, kind of crazy, but it says, maybe you know this one. It says, when you're dead, you don't know that you're dead.
Yeah.
So it's only a problem for other people, okay? Your loved ones, right?
Yeah.
But it's also the same when you're stupid.
Yes.
When you're stupid, you know you're stupid.
Yeah.
It's only the problem for other people.
Yeah.
It's the same if you're spazzy. It's really not your problem. It's not.
Yeah.
It's the other people's problem. Okay.
Yeah.
As a coach, for sure, it's my problem, and that's why it's important as a coach. Like, hey man, like put those people with experienced guys. For sure, it's good that this guy's thinking about, hey man, am I going too hard? I love it that this guy's asking that question.
Yeah.
But man, it's such to me, it's like, don't make too big a deal about it. Yeah, white belts are spastic. Guess what? Blue belts are still spastic a little bit. No, I haven't met that many purple belt spastic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
You know who a purple belt's a spaz to? He's probably to Hoffy Mendez.
That's right. Yeah. A black belt is.
I'm as bad as Hoffy Mendez, man.
Yeah. But yeah, man. And Rick, so that's the idea. I mean, like, for sure it's good, but as coaches, we need to make sure we do a good job of explaining, what to expect and kind of try to get the guy to understand what he's trying to do. But man, to be honest with you, man, I don't know that if I waste my breath that much. I mean, I'll say some stuff, but man, this process you talk about, it works.
It works.
It works for spasms. It works for.
I heard this years ago. I heard it from Pat Smith.
Oh, another guy following.
Another huge name drop.
Yeah.
4-time the first, and for years the only 4-time NCAA
That's
champion.
Right. That's right.
Right. Oklahoma State alum. Pat Smith coached OSU for years.
Yeah.
Started kids.
Right.
Program in Arkansas.
Right.
And has done huge stuff for kids wrestling.
Yeah.
So super cool that he did that. They caught him at a tournament. It was on Flow Wrestling, I think I saw. They caught him at a tournament and they were like, "Hey, real quick, coach," just with the selfie phone.
Yeah.
With the video on it. And we're like, "Right now, you've been coaching for 30 years, blah, blah, blah. You've done everything. You're the man. What would be one thing you tell yourself 30 years ago?" And he said, "Coach less. Teach less techniques." And I think that's what you're saying when you're trying to explain stuff sometimes. Bro. I've learned this. I used to talk for 20 minutes on a subject with a brand new person, and I realized years later that this guy doesn't know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And I literally just be like, "Just do it again." Yeah. Tom Brand said this in a thing, I'm name dropping a lot of people today, but he said, he won't answer questions until he's done it 100 times. Like, shoot the takedown. Yeah. And then people start questioning right away. Yeah. Hey, man, go do it. Go to the corner and drill it first. Yeah. You have to do it. Yeah. Go do it. I can't explain. There is no.
Man, let's hope. I'm glad. This is a good conversation, man. I know you're gonna have to cut this up, but this will be a good one because I was just thinking about this thing. This is where we're starting leaning forward, man. So I trained with Terry Lewis this morning. We were talking about passing, and
glad she didn't call me.
Right. Yeah. So we're talking about we trained with Hoffman this one time at a seminar, and I was lucky enough to go and visit him in California. I did a private with him, and I did a couple classes with him. And in the class, the group class, they did a drill. It was a competition class, and so at the end, where everybody's exhausted. We're just exhausted. I'm so excited because I know it's getting ready time to leave. And I can't take these monsters.
Yeah.
And he did 3 guard passing drills. So 1 minute drills. So one person is going to go 1 minute doing this drill. Same person does 1 minute next drill. So you're going for 3 minutes straight, and it's non-stop. It's a guard passing drill. So if you saw, you say, it's just a guard passing drill. But the way he does it is, I'm going to start the timer for 1 minute. You're going to go as fast as you can, and it's a flow. You're going from one side to the other, one side to the other, one side to the other. The idea is, as soon as your partner faces you, their back's exposed. You're jumping around, and there's several ways to do it.
Gotcha.
So I'm teaching Terry Lewis this drill, and it's grueling, and because this is her first time seeing, I'm making her do more than one, I'm making her do a couple of rounds,
Yeah.
But what happens is, at first, your body, you're just trying to get your body to do the motions that it needs to do, and you're not sure, and so it takes a few times to get it right, okay? But then once you have it right, a couple times, you get a couple times right in a row, now we're going to start the clock, and I want you to go as fast as you can. Not everyone's going to be perfect, but if you mess one up, I'll give you a clue. I'll give you a verbal a cue to what's going on. As you keep going, don't stop. Just keep going and adjust on the fly. But after it didn't, and man, if there's a secret to jiu-jitsu, it's this. Okay, to me, it's that it really doesn't take that long. Okay, and what I mean by that is, when she first started doing this drill, she was very tough. But this just happened this morning, okay? Mm-hmm. She first started doing this drill, she was very terrible at it. But we did it enough times in a row with me telling her every time she hopped. If I didn't say anything, it was right. But, I would just tell her, your hand. That means, hey, put your hand on this place, okay? So, but very shortly, within 10 minutes, at first, I'm pushing her, yelling at her, okay? And she's going slow. But by the end of the 10 minutes, everything is so correct that now when she jumps over, in the middle of her jump, she's already preparing for the next. She knows exactly what I'm going to do because we're just doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But now, after 10 minutes, in the middle of her jump, her mind, it's slowed down enough that 1 second in her mind and now for this drill has turned into 3 seconds. And she's actually anticipating when she lands, as soon as I go, she's using my energy, you know, and gets to the point where now I'm the one that's behind. Instead of her catching up with me, I'm trying to catch up with her. And every time I do, she jumps. And that was the point of the drill. But the point of doing it so many times in a row in such a grueling pace is that you're going to be tired, okay? Everybody's going to be tired, okay? Anybody can do it when they're fresh, but the idea is we got to get you tired. The only way you can kind of learn to operate in that kind of situation is to put yourself there. And it's so hard that nobody hardly ever does. Very rare somebody can do it. You need a coach to yell at you, you know, to get you there, make you push you harder. You know, and so, but it was fascinating to me, and she felt it too. And I said, "Do you understand?" Because at first it's like, I don't know if I could ever figure this out. And literally, you know, 10 minutes later, it's like, man, if you do that from the guard, and then you had something like that from the side mount, or you know, escape from the mount, if you're able to focus on it, you know, long enough, it just doesn't take that long. Now, of course, the next time we do that drill tomorrow. At first, it's going to be a little bit. She's, you know, the body's learning. We read this book, Daniel Coyle, Talent's Overrated, and
yes.
He's talking about that myelin buildup.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I like that idea. The idea is there's a brain and a body connection with your nervous, and every time you make a motion, your body kind of this connection that goes from here to here, your body kind of puts an insulation around this, you know, it's whatever. And the more times you do it, the thicker that insulation gets. So if you do it 10,000 times, the idea is it's like a super highway of fiber optic cable that goes so fast. And I mean, I don't know if that's how the science works, but I mean, that's the process. I feel like. I mean,
we know this studying this that like in weightlifting.
Yeah.
No one ever talks about your nervous system during weightlifting. Yeah. But part of the process of moving a weight in the bench press is muscles.
Right.
The other part, especially when you're talking about functional explosive stuff, is the nervous system firing to activate the muscles. Yeah. And we do know that by repetition, that nervous system learns. Yeah. And it can fire faster.
It's not a conscious process. It's not a conscious process. Yeah. You know,
it's no different than that. That's literally what muscle memory is.
Right.
When you talk about being like a boxer and like flipping a jab and hitting a bag.
Yeah.
Right? Well, why is it that Floyd Mayweather is better at it than me?
That's right.
Right? So that muscle memory, that's his bam.
That's that nervous system power.
That's that Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 you know?
Yeah. It's fascinating.
It's really cool.
But we don't need to know any of that to know that, you know, if you come to class, what's the process? You just come to class and train. That's the process. Some people don't know. What are they talking about this process?
It's so weird.
This process sounds so complicated.
It's so weird where when you hear somebody say, a black belt to white belt didn't quit.
Right.
And I don't like that saying.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because it's not true.
Right.
It is true.
It is true.
But it's also not true. Because there's more to it than that.
Right. It's oversimplified.
Like I said, that's oversimplifying it.
Right.
But on the bare bones level, that's true.
Yeah.
Just keep showing up.
Yeah.
Now that being said, if you don't pay attention, you don't drill, you don't do other things, it's more complicated than that.
Right.
But early on, that's all I need you to do. So I told them, what we have a saying here. The only thing the student has to bring is effort.
That's a good one.
I can get you everything else. I don't care if you're broke. I'll get you a gi.
Damn.
I got a gi somewhere you can have. We got a student that's got an extra one. We'll find you a belt. You can wear one of my old belts. I don't care. And we'll get you everything else. But you have to take the effort to get in your truck and drive here. Yeah. And then when you're here, you have to take the effort to pay attention and drill the moves and try to roll. And even when you lose, this is something that the last point I want to make here, we got to cut this video off.
Yeah.
But is that you're not special. And what I mean by that is not that you're not a special snowflake, right? This is my bluntness, okay? But the person that asked me this question, the student, you're not special. You're not the only one that feels that way.
Yeah.
Everybody does at a certain period of time. And some people like myself who've been successful were probably the worst at that. Christian can tell you this. It was one of the hardest things for me to learn early on because I'm such a competitive person.
Yeah.
I've been so successful in so many things. I wanted to be successful too. And you attribute success to working harder sometimes and going harder. And you realize, like, I got to slow down and I've got to meter my expectations. And this is a marathon, not a sprint, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so you're not that. A lot of people go through this. So as long as you keep coming in, as long as you realize, like, there's nothing wrong with me because I'm over aggressive. There's not something that can't be fixed or can't be out coached out of you. All those things can be fixed. They'll all get better with time. And this right here.
We'll talk about that next week.
We'll get that next week.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it ain't as bad as you think. It'll be better in the morning. It'll look better in the morning. Is a great way to look at it. Yes, you came to class and you got beat up and you lost and you got frustrated and you don't know why, you're not good at all these things, and so did a whole lot of other people. I'll tell my guys sometimes, like, don't worry about tapping out, because I've been tapped more than everybody in the gym combined. Everyone. Take the whole gym, the totality of the time they've trained, add everybody together.
Combined,
I've been tapped 100 times more than that. Right? And they're like, you're unbeatable. No, I'm not. Okay? To you, you're a god of Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, bro.
Yeah.
I know like 1,000 people that can tap me in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Right? I train with guys, they just can wipe the floor with me.
Yeah.
Right? But you're not special. You're not inherently bad because you're getting beat, because everybody starts there. Some people get genetic and they get started a little bit higher. Hey, that's the way it works.
It's a different Me Too movement. When someone says, "Hey, coach, I tapped out 6 times," me too.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes I come into class even now, as training all the time that I have, and I've got some solid jiu-jitsu. I've been around. I've trained with some good dudes, and I know that I'm good and I know that I'm tough. And I'll come in and roll with people, my own students, and I'm like, man, ain't nothing working tonight.
Right.
Like the timing's off.
Yeah.
And it can be so small, just your timing's off. Yeah. Maybe I didn't get enough sleep. Maybe I didn't drink enough water. Maybe my blood sugar level is off. My energy's weird. And you just realize, like, well, I'm just going to stay in control and deal with it. That used to crush me.
Right.
When I was a younger
When you had an experience like anybody,
I get my shoes and get in the bleachers.
Yeah, what's going on?
I get in the bleachers and run. I'm slipping. And now I realize, like, tomorrow will be better. It'll look better in the morning. So I don't even care anymore.
Yeah.
And
those days are part of the process too.
That's all the process.
That's a big
working
part of
on
it.
me.
Yeah.
And I learned early.
At first, it's all those days.
Yeah, it's a lot. So, really cool question, man.
Yeah. I'm glad that guy asked it. Well, who's that? Shout him out, man.
One of my students, bro.
Oh, you don't. If you don't want to say his name, you have to.
I'm not gonna dime him out.
It's all right, man. We have to start doing it regular, man. This is good, man. We had some good conversations, bro.
But guys, we're gonna cut this off before we make it too long. You guys stop watching.
Yeah. What the heck?
If you have a question you want to see answered, man, just hit me up. Send it to me.
Yeah, send me $20 on Patreon.
Yeah.
Rick's got OnlyFans. I got Patreon. Yeah. It's a different. We're doing different things, man.
We're different places in our lives.
Yeah.
But appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys soon.
All right, man.